Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott, and I'm here to give you a review of the DandO Lighting Professional 180 Watt. And this is both a dimmable and bicolor LED panel for location lighting. Now, there are a number of things that set this particular light apart, and one of those things that I want to demonstrate here today is the quantity of light. So obviously this is a fairly large panel as LED panels go, but the amount of light that it can produce is definitely at a level above anything that I have used previously. And so I set up a test right here where I'm sitting right now, where I set the camera at a constant. I set a Kelvin value of 4,500 because that is where all of these panels that I use for comparison purposes are all, they're all bicolor as well. And so bicolor panels tend to give you their highest output basically somewhere right in the middle, around 4,500 Kelvin, because the way that most of these bicolor panels work is that there are different color LEDs as a part of the array. And so what you are doing is you are either lighting some to one end of the spectrum or others to the other end of the spectrum, but somewhere in the middle they meet up, and so you get your highest amount of light output. I used a Sony A9 camera with a Sony 24mm f1.4 G Master lens for it, and it was set at 1/60th of a second shutter speed, and I had it at ISO 200. And so what I did is, before I actually did the little video segment, is that I used a lux meter, and so I tested at a distance of 7 feet or 2.2 meters. I tested the actual lux value, how much light was reaching me, sitting here on the couch, with basically the camera at about the distance it is away right now, and of course the light sitting next to it at about that kind of distance. So here's what I found. When I used a 28 watt, kind of generic circular panel, you can get one for $200 or so, I found that 179 lux was reaching me. And so as you can see, it's rather dimly lit. When I moved up to a 48 watt circular panel, and so much larger in terms of the size and the wattage that it draws, but still a fairly, generic type panel, I got a lux value of 335 lux. And so you can see that the set is lit a little bit brighter, but it's still somewhat dim. Then I moved to a high-end 42 watt panel, and so there's definitely, you kind of get what you pay for. And so even though the power draw was lower than the previous panel, I got a much higher 643 lux and reasonably well lit set at that distance. However, when I went to the B&O 180 watt panel, at that same distance I got 1,043 lux. And so what I got is essentially the light output of all three of the other panels put together in terms of the quantity of the light that was reaching the set. And so really, an impressive amount of quantity of light that it can put out. So here's some of the things that I like about it. First of all, I like the integrated barn doors. As you can see, they're designed in such a way to where they can lay down flat. And so when you go to store the light itself, it takes up minimal space. And I also like the amount of tension that are on the barn doors, and that it's easy to get them into the position that you like. And of course, the fact that it's integrated does give this a built-in advantage over some of the all the other lights that I tested, in that they're circular panels. So going with a square panel with the integrated barn doors allows you not only to have a higher quantity of light from the panel, but to help to focus down that light should you so desire. So it gives you a little bit more control innate over the spread of the light, which is something that I really like. Very important thing if you're going to use a panel for video lighting is that you need to have a flicker-free amount of light. And I've tested it at a variety of different Kelvin values, and I found consistently that I've gotten flicker-free results. One thing that you will encounter here is a wide range of power options. One of those is AC power that comes with a nice long cable. It's a speak-on connection, which if you've never used speak-on, which there's, I don't know what your experience has been, but speak-on is actually speak-on and XLR. I'm more familiar with them from an audio perspective, but speak-on is a really nice, secure, easy to use connection, and so that's a nice connection point. It does come with several different attachment cables that are flexible and kind of coiled like this with XLR connection. And so from those you can connect to something like this battery pack, which we'll take a little bit closer look at a moment. They make an amazing 900 watt hour lithium polymer battery here, which is incredible for on location. And so you actually have an option from that. You can power multiple devices off of that, but you have connection points for running something like this, as I have here via XLR, to power the light. You also have an integrated V-mount for V-mount batteries here, and so that you can just go with a self-contained unit like that. So I like the fact that there are a wide variety of powering options available for the light, giving you flexibility for when you're on location for whatever options might be there or not be there for that. On the back of the panel also, you see you've got a small LED screen. And one of my criticisms of the light is that I find in a lot of lighting conditions, it's not quite as bright as what I would like or as easy to make out. I would like it to be a little bit larger in terms of the display and maybe a little bit brighter in terms of the backlighting. One other thing that is currently an issue that they're in the process of fixing for upcoming releases, the next batch, is that when you have a V-mount battery powered on there, the LED stays powered on even if the light itself is off. And so while it's a minor draw, it is a current draw. And so if you leave that V-mount light on there and you forget about the light for weeks and you come back, you may find a dead battery as a result of that. So that's something that they're in the process of fixing. What you have here is you have a couple of dials that allow you to control both the temperature of the light here, and so you can see a range from very cool to very warm, anywhere from 3200 all the way up to 5600 Kelvin. And then also you have a power switch that will allow you, or a power dial here, that will allow you to run down, at the bottom here it's showing 8% for me. And then you can modulate that all the way up to 100% with steps along the way. I do find that making finite adjustments with these knobs, it's not a huge throw, and so making finite adjustments is maybe a little persnickety sometimes. One thing that helps with that is that it does come with a remote, and so you can control the light output in a little bit smoother, slower process by using the dimmer on this. The same is true for the color settings as well, which allow you to warm it or cool it by using this. There are also presets there, which is kind of nice, and so you can rotate through various presets that will give you different color temperatures as a part of that. And so overall, I find the remote to be useful. One thing that they do need to improve, which they already have plans to do so, is that right now the IR sensor is on the back of the light. And so if you're in front of the light itself and you're using the remote, for example, in this case, it's not going to work. It is a line of sight signal, and so it needs to have that line of sight to function. So that's something that they're working on fixing as well. Another positive in the design itself is that it has integrated heat sinks, and so it runs essentially perfectly quiet, and so you're never going to pick up any sound from it. There are no fans. It relies on the heat sink system that is built into it, and so that's a nice thing. Obviously, there are dials here on either side that allow you to control the tilt of the light and even the direction of the light, and so that gives you some flexibility. Now, the actual mounting yoke here, it has a couple of redundant, and it has kind of built-in adapter, so you can go on to a variety of different light poles, depending on how they're terminated, and so it will go on there. You're able to attach fairly tight here at the lens mount. However, I will note that this is an over 13-pound light, around 6 kilos, and so I find that, as you can see, it is a little bit top heavy. That's just the nature of the sheer size of it, and so because it does allow you to rotate, there is a little bit of flex that's inherent in this. Kind of feels like a machined aluminum. There is a little bit of flex that's inherent in that, and so obviously that's only going to affect you probably when moving the light, but it does feel a little bit tippy when you're moving the light around due to that. Once it's stable, of course, and set, that's not going to be a problem. So obviously the quantity and the quality of the light is fantastic. It has a great CRI rating, and so very accurate color and very good quality of light, along with obviously a great quantity of light. And so if you are in a situation where you want a single panel to give you a lot of light, this is a really great option. It is the most powerful of its kind that I have seen or used, and so it's going to generate a huge amount of light quantity for you. And the price, relative to the performance, is fairly reasonable. It's $799 US, which certainly is not cheap, but at the same time, for the quantity of light that you're getting, it is a very powerful option. Now, as far as powering that, it's going to come with AC power, and so if you're going to use a V-mount, for example, for my test, I use the same standard V-mount battery, a relatively inexpensive one from Watson that I used for this. They actually, DandO Lighting also makes their own V-mount batteries that are, relatively affordable, nicely priced. I didn't have any of them on hand to test, and so that's obviously an option, but that's going to be an additional expense for that. So if you want the nuclear option for powering on set, obviously their 900 watt hour lithium polymer battery is a very, very serious piece of kit here. It's also seriously expensive. It's fairly heavy. Again, it's right over 13 pounds, around 6 kilos. However, it will give you an output of 2 times 12 amps, and so you can run multiple lights from it on set, and obviously with enough power there to last for a long time. This is the equivalent of over 9 standard V-mount batteries. Those are typically around 95 or 98 watt hours, and so this is giving you 900 watt hours, 60,000 mAh, and so it is a seriously powerful battery. I did the math based on, say, my 42 watt light that was part of this demonstration, and so this could actually power that light for over 28 hours. And so even with a higher draw light like this, you can easily get an all-day performance out of this battery pack, which is, of course, awesome. You can charge it in about 8 hours if you're using a single DCI charger. It comes with a 1 AC charger, but if you actually had a second one around, you can actually, you can have the amount of time to 4 hours to power it, and so another bit of flexibility for that. It comes with its own carrying case, and obviously it comes with the netting here, which kind of gives you the benefit is you can, you could put it on the floor and run power from that, but if you use the netting, it gives you an option of using it like a ballast, and so to help to make sure that your light stands are stable. But this is going to cost you. This runs around $2 grand for this battery pack, which is a lot of money. However, if you're in a situation where you don't have access to AC power and you need to run lights, on some kind of set or, an outdoor type setting, this is obviously a compelling option for the sheer amount of power that it brings and the fact that you can run multiple lights on it and bring it along in its own very sturdy kind of scenario here. If you need some serious performance either from a battery or from a light, there are some intriguing options from DandO Lighting. I'll throw a linkage into the description down below that will give you links to go into check out these things, purchase options there, and of course there are the typical links there to follow me on social media, to become a patron, to sign up for my newsletter, and if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button right here on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.